Hello, I'm Charlie McKinney, and today I'll be talking about the play I picked, Cowboys 2. Originally, I was going to do Cowboys 1, but the original script for Cowboys has been destroyed. Rumors is it might have been written on a Tootsie Roll wrapper, but I don't think that's true, but that's what it is. Anyway, Cowboys 2 is a revision of the play I had intended to pick. Now, Cowboys 2, it's a pretty good play. It's one act, and it begins with two disembodied voices who you don't really get to see till the end. Anyway, the plot involves two men named Shet and Stu. They're waiting for rain. Anyway, while the rain comes and they wallow a little bit in the mud, and then they decide to play some cowboys and Indians. This drama has their imaginary world of cowboys, Indians, and stuff like this, and it gets interrupted by just daily existence. Like, they want to run around and shoot some Indians, but then there's cars beeping in the background and stuff like that. They talk about how bad the environment is and stuff. It has some really nice symbolism in it, and some really good metaphors. Anyway, from the playwright perspective, you can see the type of characters that are in the play. Shet is rather rambunctious and silly, and as I said, he likes to run around, wallow in the mud, and he likes to run and stare at some stars, and even drag Stu around on stage. Shet would probably be a character with a dominant trait, his dominant trait being humor, of course. On the other hand, Stu seems to be Shet's cool voice in the back of his head. He's always telling him, well, stop being so silly and stuff like that. But in reality, they're in a construction zone, but in their minds, they're in a desert, which I thought was really strange, sort of. But anyway, Stu can be considered a stock character or quintessential character. Stu can be the stereotypical friend that keeps the other out of trouble, but I believe he's a quintessential character just because I think he represents a higher thing. I believe he represents the friend that we've all lost, but Shepard goes a little bit further. I believe that Stu died, which is why he dies in the play, but through Shet's imagination, he's alive again, telling him that what's the difference between the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper and all that other good friend stuff. Anyway, the other two characters I want to talk about are Man 1 and Man 2. They don't have any other names, and they're very strange. They're nameless, like I said. In the end, they actually go and speak over Shet while he just rambles on about nonsense. But Shet doesn't seem to notice. So it means they're either passerby or maybe even higher level beings like God and Satan or something. Anyway, this is what makes the play so good. It's open to interpretation. Your interpretation decides on the type of characters. If you think they're just passerby, then those are just minor characters that are just talking. If you think it's God and Satan, well then they represent good and evil, so they're quintessential characters as well. Anyway, this goes on, and the play could be a comedy, because Shet runs around talking about turtles and chicken dew. But in contrast, it may be a tragicomedy because Stu died, which is really sad. I mean, Shet tries to keep his friend alive, to no avail. The desert's too hot. I believe Shet is actually reliving the nightmare of his friend dying all these years ago by an Indian raid. He tries to get Stu out of the heat, but it's too hot. There isn't enough water for them both, or maybe Stu won't drink anyway. Stu ends up dying, and as a result, the guilty Shet is homeless and hangs around a construction site with his old friend's guidance. And like I said, Man 1 and Man 2 are probably Satan trying to decide what should happen to Shet after he dies. The structure in the play is definitely climactic. It only has a few characters, and it only has a few characters. Oh wait, I said that wrong. Yeah, it's climactic because the few characters, but and has a very linear plot. Sorry about that. Anyway, but if you think it's all in their imagination, then it's episodic because the play takes place long after Stu's death. So you might believe it's episodic, I don't know. And the final piece I'd like to talk about is the scenery. Scenery is... The scene design helps you first differentiate if you're dealing with a realistic or non-realistic play. It helps sets the mood and even create the environment. This is the tangible part that the audience can see. They probably shouldn't touch it, but they could if they wanted to. And the only tangible part in the play is the construction site. However, our characters are rarely really in the construction site, which is very cool, I thought. With some coordination from the sound designer, we get to go in the Wild West with Shet and Stu and listen to some crickets, some Indians, and even the gunfire, because they really can't be shooting guns in place. There's decent interaction between props, the costume. It's a little dull, but I mean, still costume. Little black. No one really went all out on color, but I believe it helps represent the theme that Stu is in limbo and Shet is grieving for his old friend. The lighting and sound is definitely the most important part, though. Like I said, you don't get to see Man 1 and Man 2 till the end. They're just shapeless voices because of the light. The Indians whoop and they fire guns, like I said, because they're not allowed to have access. Well, they might be allowed, but they don't have access to computer-generated images or CGI, so they just can't CGI someone getting shot or anything like that. So they gotta fake it. So it falls on the sound designer to make the audience feel like it is really happening, which he did a really good job. Sound recordings definitely important to the plot in here. And even the occasional car horn that reminds, hey, this is all really in their head. And they're at a construction site and you can hear it. Indubitably, Cowboys 2 is a great play. The fact that there are so many ways to interpret this play is definitely why Shepard won an Obie for it. Through the audience, we can see the symbolism, the metaphors, and what occurs in the play. Through the playwright, we can see the type of characters and the play that reside here in the play. Through the designers, we see how the lighting and sound are probably the most important part. Otherwise, it'd be two guys just in a construction site yelling, "I see Indians." Cowboys 2 is one of Sam Shepard's greatest plays. Everything about it is malleable and open to interpretation, which I like a lot. Anyone can see a different good idea going on, but the plot remains the same. Shep misses his dear friend Sue very badly. Now, for the part where we have to be a little creative, I just want to go over Stu's monologue, I believe it is. He rambles on about the environment and stuff in this really nice monologue full of symbolism. Anyway, I'm just gonna jump right into this.